Every African American in the United States has a family member that have served in the United States military branch of armed forces, whether it's the Army, Navy, Air Force, or the Coast Guard. All of us know someone who has fought and sometimes died for the freedoms of this country. And since the United States has been a country, there's only one other group besides whites who's died and fought in every war: African Americans. Before that, the Civil War, Desert Storm, Afghanistan. Some of those might not be wars. You get it. We fought in all of them and died. And guess what? Sometimes fought and died in those wars and came back to the United States to be treated as second-class citizens. Dead Presidents depicted this by the character played by Lawrence Tate, and many black folk have experienced that, especially black men, coming back to nothing after the Vietnam War. But wait a minute, what if I was to tell you, despite all of your accomplishments as black people in the military, they would just, bring over another group and give them everything they should have given you, including free healthcare? Well, you'd be like, well, that was in the 60s, bro. That was back then, but this is now. Racism ain't happening no more. Right? They're doing it to all Americans, bro, not just the black ones. That's right. Migrants who come in to America automatically are now getting housed. And guess what? Free healthcare. That's right. Some of y'all can't get it right now. You have to work for your healthcare. They get it for free. And guess what? Now your boy Joe Biden is out there on the borders right now, where these people are coming in Texas, especially in Brownsville, since him and Trump are going to go back at it for United States presidency. The current president has forgotten one thing. Play that clip.
In your first 100 days as president, what will you do to create a pathway to citizenship for many undocumented immigrants? That is a big issue for the AAPI community. As you know, 1.7 million face deportation threats. Another 100,000 are young people who are affected by the DACA program. So 2 parts for you. What are you going to do to be more visible? And what do you say to the folks that think you're just going to be President Obama 2.0? And what are you going to do about immigration right when you get in office?
On day one, I'm going to send a legislative immigration reform bill to Congress to provide a roadmap to citizenship for 11 million undocumented immigrants who contribute so much to this country, including 1.7 million AAPI. My immigration policy is built around keeping families together, modernizing the immigration system by keeping families, unification, and diversity as pillars of our immigration system, which it used to be. Ending Trump's cruel and inhumane policy at the border to rip children from their mother's arms. Take immediate action to protect dreamers, including the more than 100,000 eligible dreamers from East and South Asia. Rescinding the Un-American Muslim ban immediately. Restoring refugee admission in line with the values and historic leadership of our country. Raising the target to a minimum of 125,000 people a year.
Yeah, see, that's right. Joe Biden really doesn't care about stopping immigration to the United States. That's not really his concern. His concern is staying president and appearing that he cares about the migration into the United States. But there have been some people on the San Diego border who are trying to stop this whole migration thing from happening.
Yeah, so we actually have some footage of you patching up a hole with razor wire. Tell us about that, and you bought it yourself. Why?
Well, as the CEO of VetCom, I help veterans every single day, and I've been on the news talking about veterans getting deprioritized behind migrants. And they're taking their spots in VA hospitals. They're getting their funds for all the homeless funds. And I said, you know what, enough is enough. I'm not going to sit idly by and say, especially as a candidate, that I stand for closing the border. I decided to go stand at the border and actually close it. I wanted to go and do something and show the nation that you can actually go and do something. You don't have to sit around and wait for the people that are never going to come.
Yeah, The lady goes out there and actually puts wiring around the border thing, and she's encouraging other Americans to do the same thing. Joe Biden, remember, he had this to say about blacks voting for Trump. Check it out.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
So that was Joe Biden's stance. You vote for Trump, you're not black, right? I'm not here to tell you to vote for anybody. It's really your own decision. But I want to talk about issues that are very significant to African Americans. He was asked at a presidential debate, what are your thoughts on reparations? And what about these controversial comments that you said years ago? Let's play the clip.
I want to come to you and talk to you about inequality in schools and race. In a conversation about how to deal with segregation in schools back in 1975, you told a reporter, I don't feel responsible for the sins of my father and grandfather. I feel responsible for what the situation is today, for the sins of my own generation, and I'll be damned if I feel responsible to pay for what happened 300 years ago. You said that some 40 years ago. But as you stand here tonight, what responsibility do you think that Americans need to take to repair the legacy of slavery in our country?
Well, they have to deal with look, there is institutional segregation in this country. And from the time I got involved, I started dealing with that. Redlining, banks, making sure that we are in a position where, look, we talk about education. I propose that what we take is those very poor schools, the Title I schools, triple the amount of money we spend, from $15 to $45 billion a year. Give every single teacher a raise to the equal raise of getting out the $60,000 level. Number two, make sure that we bring in to help the teachers deal with the problems that come from home. The problems that come from home, we have one school psychologist for every 1,500 kids in America.
So that's right. In his early days of being a senator, Joe Biden said, listen, whatever my ancestors did to y'all, it's not my concern. All right? That's not my concern. And I really don't care. And whenever he was asked that question from the lady, what did he answer it with? He answered it with, well, education and poor property rights. And he made it a United States thing. He didn't make it a black thing. But he sure made it a black thing in that comment. I know where I'm going with this, but stick with me. What did Kamala Harris say about reparations?
Do you support reparations for black people?
Well, listen, again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination and segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit black children, black families, black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No, because whatever benefits that black family will benefit that community and society as a whole and the country. Right?
Kamala Harris had a very similar perspective about reparations. But now, look at what Joe Biden is trying to do. He's going after the American vote, but now he's trying to pretend like he really cares about the migration crisis. The reality is this: Joe Biden wanted the black vote to replace the black vote. That's what it was. It was to replace the black vote and to push African Americans from the number 1 minority group, well, we're already number 2, to like number 3 or number 4. And if you didn't get nothing at number 1, you're definitely not getting nothing at number 2 or 3. That was to pretty much halt any talks of reparations. But still, he's looking for your vote. Now, here's what I'm gonna tell you. If blacks are to ever vote Democratic again, whatever you decide to do, what is the agenda that we're concerned about that the man never addresses? Reparations. I'm for reparations, right? I'm just saying, like, I don't know if we're gonna get it. I don't think we're gonna get it. But the thing is, why are we giving the guy the vote for something he doesn't want to do when he wants to do something opposite of reparations, which is giving your free money that some of you have been in the military for? You know, you feel like we have been owed this from slavery, and then that money he gives it to, well, Ukraine crisis, that money he gives it to migrants who are here illegally, that money he's giving it to whoever he wants. But we're still voting for him. But hopefully, we won't be fooled by that this time, because that's why he's on these borders trying to pretend like, hey, I really care about the, you know, safety of America, which he does not. Don't let him fool you again. So guys, what do you think? It's your boy, Shadu Jackson, back at it again with another episode of Kanganda. Appreciate you for what you do. I'm out.